Welcome back. Here we are having a conversation about growing your impact, your influence, your leadership as a Christ follower, not only in the church, where we need more and more leaders, but also in the marketplace, where we need more and more Christ followers making a meaningful impact in the different spheres of society. And we got Christo and Rigby with us, answering some questions. Last week we spoke about the first two tracks along which we can grow our impact. It was self-leadership. If you can't lead yourself, you can't lead others. And then secondly, it was followership. If you can't follow others, you can't lead others either. Today we dive into three more conversations, three more tracks. Here we go. Well, the third track is embrace responsibility. Embrace responsibility. And somebody who said this wonderfully was Mark Driscoll. He was speaking from our very pulpit, and we asked him about his view of men in South Africa. He's a student of men growing in God, and he says he noticed that we delay putting responsibility on 20-something men, and he thought it was a mistake in our culture. And he gave us an analogy. He says he sees men as pickup trucks, and without a load, they swerve off the road. And he likes to load his men in his church with responsibility so they can muscle up in God and in the impact they're going to make. So along that theme of carrying a load, the readiness to put up your hand. Christo, would you mind telling us how you've seen this readiness to embrace responsibility in the workplace and how it increases a person's impact?
Look, no doubt, there comes a time that you have to put up your hand and say, I'm going to take the lead here, I'll take the responsibility, I'm going to, with the team always, try and make this thing happen. And it's a defining moment for many lives, and I've seen it in the people that I give leadership to when they rise to that challenge and decide that, yes, their vision, their execution is key to this. They take the full weight, I like that analogy you used, full weight of that possibility, and they run with it. And I've seen many examples in the church and in the marketplace of that, and it's a very exciting thing to see. So I know in my life that came for me when I became the MD of Synergy, and I realized the opportunity that I've been given to take this thing forward, and it's been a huge thing for me.
Rigby, on the subject?
I would say the call to embracing responsibility mustn't be heard as some kind of intrusive obligation in our lives, but a better way to see embracing responsibility is what I would call a life-giving opportunity. We can dial out of purposelessness and meaninglessness and perhaps being part of the idiot culture where we're entertaining ourselves to death by embracing a God-given task and a responsibility that is consistent with the investments of grace and potential that God has put into our lives. So I think carrying due weight, using the truck analogy, is opportunity. It's not obligation. It's what we're wired for. It's what we're designed for in God's kingdom.
I can think of so many people across business and in the church where we've given them just a whiff of a chance to take responsibility. And their lives look radically different today than what it used to be. Yeah. And the flip side of that coin is those who've shied away from it, and the poorer for it.
What about you, Christo? When I think of you, I think about a man with huge shoulders, carrying a company, carrying a church, and yet you seem to maintain poise. Obviously, you didn't always have this capacity. What was your pathway in growing towards this kind of ability to carry a load?
It comes over time, and it comes as you build capacity, and it comes as you hear the whispers of God, and others begin to encourage you and say, no, actually you can do this, and you build that capacity. But I think the key for me to take the responsibility across all spheres is I've got two great teams in both spheres that I lead, and my ability to build those teams have really set me free to do what I want to do.
And they carry responsibility, so it's the delegation of responsibility.
Yeah, absolutely.
Rigby, responsibility, let's be real, can burn a man out. What's the connection between self-leadership and responsibility?
Well, I think you lead yourself to live out your own calling and see the mission of Christ fulfilled. And you just have to look in the mirror to know that you're not enough. And you'd be crazy to think you could pull this off on your own. So part of my responsibility as a leader within the context of Common Ground Church is to share that load and to train and equip others to, as it were, take responsibility with me to see the cause of Christ advance both in the church and in the world.
Brilliant. Let's move on to the next track, the fourth track, which is equip yourself, to skill yourself up. And simply said, commitment and devotion is not enough. We need some skills. It's much like the analogy of the man with the blunt axe. No matter how hard he tries, he can only knock a few trees down. But if he can sharpen that axe, take out the time to sharpen it, he's so much more effective. And this is something that's discernible in the marketplace and in church leadership. Maybe Rigby, you start us this time. The theme of upskilling yourself to be a laborer in God's church.
Well, probably what's consistent with my whole life is the realization that wisdom is a skill. And I, almost every day of my life, I ask God for wisdom, because and it in itself is a expression of humility. It's you're looking away from yourself to someone else to be able to get the resources and perspective that you need on a daily basis. But I would include along with that, I've needed to upskill myself over the last few years in particular around preaching, around leading a team. My personal journey from leading a small group of pastors is a radical change. Suddenly we've got 27 elders on our team. What book am I going to read for that? I've needed to really learn from others, so the self-leadership and followership disciplines have led us to people like Tim Keller, who've been a loud voice in shaping me personally, our leadership team, in our togetherness, and our church ultimately is being upskilled through those learnings.
Christo?
I think for me, I remember 13 years ago arriving at the company that I'm leading today and being interviewed, and the interviewer told me that on my CV there was not a skill or experience that he was looking for. And 6 or 7 years later I got to lead that business, and a lot of it had to do with me putting in the hours to equip myself. And I've built rhythms into my life. I like to start my day with a chunky time in the scriptures. That goes without saying. But when I hit the office, I normally spend the first hour of my day just learning from others. And of course today we've got the wonderful resource of the internet. So I would go every morning, first half an hour, just read as much as I can in terms of leadership, management, what's happening in our industry, learning from others. And that's the way to go. And of course, my greatest equipping and skilling has come right here in this church, where I've been taught just about everything I know about Christianity and following Christ. And that's been a huge thing for me.
I'd like to just maybe add that there's a kind of a trajectory that God puts into a Christ follower. It's a work of the Holy Spirit that I think the psalmist articulated well when he said, the blessed are those who set their heart on pilgrimage. They grow from strength to strength until each appears before God in Zion. So that trajectory is towards stronger and stronger. And Solomon in Proverbs says the path of the just is as a light that shines brighter and brighter. There's influence, there's impact, until the perfect day. So our whole life, there's never a time where we graduate. So we have to have that posture of wanting to learn fresh lessons, to grow ourselves, to grow together with others. And I've made it my business to never settle down.
Also, that learning doesn't just come from those that's ahead of you. I've learned so much from people who are brand new out of university, people who's been a follower of Christ for 2 days. We need to be open to that. And one of the disciplines or rhythms in my life is to regularly ask people for feedback into how am I doing, which areas am I blind to my own capacity that should grow. And so that's a wonderful tool. But we need to learn from everybody.
Yeah. Christo, in this church, you actually mentioned the phrase, the whispers of God. As one of the leaders in the church, I often feel God speaking a whisper to me about how to better lead.
Yeah.
I'm curious, as a Christ-following leader in the marketplace, does the Holy Spirit speak to you about how to lead, not just in the church, but in your world?
Interesting question, Terran, and the answer is for sure. Probably the biggest decisions that I've made in the marketplace has been after hearing the whispers of God. I remember in January 2009, literally waking up one morning and the Holy Spirit planted this idea in my mind that we should buy our current business from a previous owner. That was a big decision, and of course one then had to go and do homework, speak to other people and put a plan together. But the initial whisper came from God, and I'm so grateful for that.
And what's happened to your business since then?
Well, it's 3 years on now, and we've virtually tripled our profitability in those 3 years. We've had a magnificent run, and it's just I think in this thing, if you live out your life according to God's will, the possibilities are endless.
If I've got to be honest, I'm an admirer of both of your lives and the impact you make for Christ. And probably the thing I admire most is your ability to relate sincerely and warmly to all kinds of people. You know, you don't relate narrowly to one kind of person, which I see so often happening in the city of Cape Town. Can you tell us your own journey on upskilling in your relational range?
Well, I think it's initially the answer is it's a self-leadership issue. You have to realize that people matter to God, and because we're a church that is caring for our congregation and for our city, we're meeting all kinds of people at different stages of their spiritual journey, which means we've needed to develop skills and ability to help people, to answer their questions for where they are. We need to guarantee to people respect. We need to guarantee to people warmth. We need to guarantee to people interest. And over the years, particularly serving in Common Ground, it's been a great adventure because God has brought all kinds of people into our spiritual community. And I never want to be a pastor that is one-dimensional. So I think the church itself and the call of Christ on our lives has led us to develop those skills. And I would imagine if you're a pastor and you really care about people, you'll grow those skills.
I think that the gospel doesn't give us the option to be selective in our friendships. And if we want to be influential, it has to be with all kinds of people. And for me, it's been an area of growth. It doesn't come natural for me. I like to hang out with people that are like me, similar interests and so forth. And just so grateful for friends and for my wife, who's really encouraged me to build friendships across all kind of boundaries. And today, I've benefited from those friendships.
That brings us to the final track along which we grow our impact. And that track is raising others up. Simply put, it's not enough for you just to become competent and to carry a responsibility and do the work. You need to raise up others, give other people a chance, pass on your passion, pass on your skills. Such an important aspect of Christ following. We learned it from Jesus himself. And Christo and Rigby, I'd love to hear from you guys your journey about raising others up, not just being a competent person, but a multiplier of that competency.
And I think the Reformation and revolution is probably the stronger term that's happening in church circles, is this awakening that our greatest asset is the sleeping giant of the priesthood of all believers, the ordinary people that under God's leadership in the marketplace and in this community can live extraordinary lives, carrying the work of God, carrying responsibility. And so as a church, it's not a roadshow for elders, it's not a roadshow for home group leaders. Our task is to equip and continually releasing leaders to carry weight at multiple levels. So in the context of Common Ground churches, to see small group leaders and ministry leaders, worship leaders, kids ministry leaders being multiplied continually. It's absolutely vital for the forward movement of our church.
And it's not our job to multiply them, it's the job of the kids ministry leader to multiply themselves.
Exactly.
Small group leader to multiply themselves.
Exactly. So we're aiming to be highly intentional about producing in time that these big 5 leadership tracks will create ultimately a culture where all of us realize we are leading somebody, whether we're doing it well or poorly, is really what's at stake. And our hope through this series is that more and more we'll be doing it positively.
Yeah.
Well, I've learned so much from both of you actually when it gets to multiplying of leaders, and I don't care how gifted you are, you can never change the world on your own. And if we go back to Jesus taking a bunch of fishermen and in 2 years turning them into the most powerful leadership team in the world, there's a lesson for us right there. So it's a huge privilege. And I think in the marketplace, one of the things that I've learned over the years is the best thing I can do is to employ people that are sharper than me. And so I'm also always looking for the best talent around and work with them, give them the ethos, the culture of our business, and then set them free. And most of those guys have overtaken me in capacity, in ability, in vision, and that's a wonderful thing to see. And examples in the church, we've had plenty of that, We want to continue to multiply. We cannot do this thing on our own. We will be ineffective. We'll run ourselves into the ground. And so for us, the ability to which we can multiply, bring through others, that will determine the ability to which we can move forward in the church and in the marketplace.
I'd add to that there probably are many great churches in our city and in the world, but I don't know a community of faith that has more or a greater investment of grace from God, sitting with more potential and capacity to make a difference, to influence, than I've seen in Common Ground Church. And I think for me, the thing that keeps me awake at night sometimes and gets me up in the morning is this call to call forth the greatness in this community, and that together we can see that new day for our city and for our world.
Christo.
So let me tell you about I think as a leader, the thing that we have to do all the time is scan the horizon, ask yourself all the time, where are potential leaders, guys who can go further than you? I'm so grateful that there were leaders in Common Ground who saw that in me. And when I was probably least qualified, least experienced, just a follower of Christ for a few months literally, I was asked to begin to lead a home group with Elise. I'm so grateful that that opportunity came our way. People invested in me, skilled me up, equipped me, and set me free, and the rest is history. But it started with somebody saying, hey, there must be others who can lead, who can get the opportunity, and I was given that.
Christo, another question. This concept of multiplying yourself, raising others up, talent spotting, I can see how it works in the church, where we just don't have enough leaders to change the world. You know, everything rises and falls on leadership in the church too. But is this something that every person of impact in the marketplace should be doing? Not just plying themselves into the work, but raising others up behind them, especially when it's not their job, they're not paid to do it.
Yeah.
Is something people should value in your perspective?
Absolutely, and I've seen great examples of that in our own business, where people come alongside one another. The whole issue around mentorship, just taking somebody under your wing, teach them what you know if you're a little bit further ahead on the road, and giving them opportunities to overtake you. So that's so relevant in the marketplace. Something that I do every week is interview people. I never stop looking for better and good skills, and so that's the opportunity for us to build capacity.
And from a local church point of view, the thing that I would want to say is that for Common Ground's future, as we multiply congregations, as God extends our fingerprint and our footprint across the city, we're going to continually need to multiply eldership. We're going to need to multiply worship leaders, small group leaders, and so it's a no-brainer around right now, wherever we are in any sphere of ministry, we need to be becoming kingdom talent spotters and taking risks with people, maybe not around premature appointments, but giving people assignments where their gifts can find expression in our local church.
So there we have it. If we're going to grow our impact, our influence, our leadership, both in the church and in the marketplace, as salt and light that Jesus has called us to be, there's no way around those 5 tracks. We're all on those tracks all the time. We can do better and go further along those tracks. And to recall, firstly, it's lead yourself. Secondly, it's follow others. Thirdly, it's embrace responsibility. Fourth is equip yourself and get equipped. And number 5 is raise others up. How are you doing on these points? Because those are the clues to your greatness.